Guess who's back? Back again. SG's back. Tell a friend. Mhm. Hello, everyone. Is anybody there? I don't know if anybody's here right now. I'm just texting someone back. So, everybody have a good day, hopefully. Hopefully, everybody's day is good. Uh, I was actually thinking about doing that second chapter in The Art of Racing in the Rain. Now, if anybody missed the first chapter, um, I actually, sorry, I have a friend that's going through something, so I'm just texting them back. I figure I'm going to be back on my road to forgiveness and accountability, even my own. I'm not going to be bitching. I hope everybody can hear me good. I listened to my one of my live streams last night, and I really couldn't hear good. So I hope everybody can hear me good if everybody's around. And like I was saying, if anybody missed the first chapter of the book, The Art of Racing in the Rain, it starts at the it the beginning chapter is where the dog is, has pretty much at the end of its life and is like, "Hi, Mike. I'm glad I sound good. Thank you. I needed to know if I sounded all right." I don't know if you're interested in this, but I was reading a book before. I had done the first chapter of The Art of Racing in the Rain. I don't know if you've caught it. Have you seen the movie? It's a little different than the book, of course, like any other movie. And I was just doing like a brief synopsis of the first chapter that the dog is, you know, pretty much at the end of his life. And so he kind of starts reminiscing about his whole life with the family that he had lived with and, the things that went on. And he's starting, um, I'll just do the first chapter and see if anybody's interested in hearing any more. They're pretty short. Hi there. Nice to see you. I hope all is well with you. Um, I was just gonna read the second chapter of this book of like this. It's all told from the eyes of the dog, and it's called The Art of Racing in the Rain. There was a movie made of it. Awesome book, really awesome book, and um, I just think it has a lot of beautiful writing in it. The words are just so wonderful. So the first chapter, like I said, he's pretty much at the end of his life, and he's kind of the dog. His name's Enzo, and he's just kind of reminiscing. Okay, Roscoe, please. You guys know the drill. That as soon as I get live, the animal's got to start. It won't be long before he starts doing it with his girlfriend blanket. um. So So it starts, the last chapter was kind of the end, and then he starts going back to his life. So this is the second chapter. Nobody's interested, you don't have to listen. I just think it's a good book, and it's something that I checked out of the library specifically to reread because I've probably read it quite a few times. So it's such a great book. It really is. So this is the second chapter. Now remember, the first chapter is just where he's, reminiscing his life with the family and the things that happened. So remember, this is all told from the dog. Oh no, here he goes with a loud toy. Oh my God, my dog. Happy-ish. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm okay. I'm all right. My dog is killing me with a loud toy in the background. Oh my gosh, these animals, it's like they know. Crazy. All right, here we go. Dog's name's Enzo, and the story's told from the eyes of the dog. Oh, let me get my glasses on. That would help. Can you hear my dog over there being loud? Okay. He picked me out of a pile of puppies, a tangled, rolling mess of paws and ears and tails, behind a barn in a smelly field, near a town in eastern Washington called Spangle. Oh my God, my dog's killing me. Roscoe, can you stop, please, buddy? Can you please stop, buddy? Yeah, could you? Um, I don't remember much about where I came from, but I remember my mother, a lab, and I chased her from across the yard. Some of the things I'll skip just to try to get through a little quicker. Honestly, our mother didn't seem to like us much, and she was fairly indifferent to whether we ate or starved. She seemed relieved whenever one of us left, one fewer yipping mammal tracking her down to get her milk. I never knew my father. The people on the farm told Denny that he was a shepherd poodle mix, but I don't believe it. I never saw a dog that looked like that on the farm. And while the lady was nice, the alpha man was a mean bastard who would look you in the eyes and lie, even if telling the truth would serve him better. He expounded at length on the relative intelligence of dog breeds, and he firmly believed that shepherds and poodles were the smart ones, and therefore would be more desirable and more valuable when bred back to a lab for temperament. Oh, to a Labrador, not a lab. uh, they're responders and reactors. Everyone knows that shepherds and poodles aren't especially smart. They're responders and reactors. Hi, Mr. Rook. I skip pages, all of them. Sorry. I'm trying to skip a few just to get through, not pages. I'm not skipping pages, just a couple of sentences that are just, you know, whatever. Um, Especially the blue-eyed sheepdogs from down under that people make such a fuss over when they catch a frisbee. Sure, they're clever and quick, but they don't think outside the box. They're all about convention. I'm sure my father was a terrier because terriers are problem solvers. They'll do what you tell them, but only if it happens to be in line with what they wanted to do anyway. There was a terrier like that. You do? I didn't notice. Uh, there was a terrier like that on the farm on Airedale, big and brown, black and tough. No one messed with him. He didn't stay with us in the gated field behind the house. He stayed in the barn down the hill by the creek where the men went to fix their tractors. But sometimes he would come up the hill, and when he did, everyone steered clear. Word in the field was he was a fighting dog. The alpha man kept separate because he'd kill a dog for sniffing in his direction. He'd rip the fur from the nape of a lazy because of a lazy glance. And when a bitch was in heat, he'd mount her good and go about his business without a thought about who was watching or who cared. I've often wondered if he sired me. I have his brown and black. Oh, I have his brown black coloring, and my coat is slightly wiry, and people frequently comment that I must be part terrier. I like to think I came from a determined gene pool. I remember the heat on the day I left the farm. Every day was hot in Spangle, and I thought the world was just a hot place because I never knew what cold was about. Yep, that's the stud, all right. I had never seen rain. I didn't know much about water. Water was the stuff in buckets that the older dogs drank, and it was the stuff the alpha man sprayed out of the hose and into the faces of dogs who might want to pick a fight. But the day that Denny arrived was exceptionally hot. Hi, Kai. Oh, they're doing a live over there, too. I saw you get snapped at today. The other day. That was so messed up, but just saying. Um, so anyway, my lair mates and I were tussling around like we always did, and a hand reached into the pile and found my scruff, and suddenly I was dangling high in the air. This one, a man said. It was my first glimpse of the rest of my life. He was slender with long and lean muscles. Not a large man. I know. I saw something else, isn't she? Uh, not at all what people thought. But anyway, um, not a large man, but assertive. He had keen, icy blue eyes. His choppy hair and short, scruffy beard were dark and wiry, like an Irish terrier. The pick of the litter, the lady said. She was nice. I always liked it when she cuddled us in her soft lap. The sweetest, the best. We were thinking of keeping him, the alpha male said. Yeah, I know, but I have proof that she's the one who said that. But anyhow, let's skip that because I'm trying to keep on this road to forgiveness and accountability of my own. I'm trying to be cheery, but I appreciate Kai, all your defense of me. Thank you. Um, yes, the story is told from the eyes of the dog. Such an awesome book, Adair. Oh my God, so beautifully written. Ah, the book I've read it over and over again because it's so nice. So this is where they're picking him out of the litter. The dog's recollecting it. Because remember, he's near the end of his life in the beginning chapter, so he's just reminiscing through his whole life. We were thinking of keeping him, the alpha man said, stepping up with his big boots caked with mud from the creek where he was patching a fence. That was the line he always used. Hell, I was a pup, only a dozen weeks old, and I'd already heard that line a bunch of times. He used it to get more money. Will you let him go? For a price, the alpha man said, squinting at the sky. For a price. Now that was only chapter 2, so I could go on to chapter 3 if anybody wants me to. Oh, she's checking in. She's checking in. That was the end of chapter 2. I told you they're small chapters, so I like that too because we get through the book quick. I hope to see you back, and I hope everything works out well. All right, this is chapter 3. I'm going to just move on. Chapter 3. Very gently, like there are eggshells on your pedals, Benny always says, and you don't want to break them. That's how you drive in the rain. When we watch videos together, which we've done ever since the first day I met him, he explains these things to me. To me. Remember, the dog is telling the story. Balance, anticipation, patience, these are all vital. Peripheral vision, seeing things you've never seen before. Kinesthetic sensation, driving by the seat of your pants. But what I've always liked best is when he talks about having no memory. No memory of things he'd done just a second before, good or bad. Because memory is time folding back on it to itself. That's true. You have to forgive me. This book always chokes me up. I don't know why. I love it, but it chokes me up because it's so beautifully written. To remember is to disengage from the present. In order to reach any kind of success in automobile racing, a driver must never remember, which is why drivers compulsively record their every move, their every race with cockpit cameras, in-car video, Data mapping. A driver cannot be a witness to his own greatness. This is what Denny says. He says racing is doing. It is being a part of a moment and being aware of nothing else but that moment. Reflection must come at a later time. The great champion Julian Sabella-Rosa has said, when I am racing, my mind and my body are working so quickly and so well together, I must be sure not to think, or else I will definitely make a mistake. I think like the whole point of the book is that maybe we're all racing in the rain and that we should always like stay in the moment and not, you know, keep reflecting on the past. That's the end of chapter 3. I told you they're short chapters. So I'm hoping that nobody minds that I'm reading this because, like I said, I do love this book and I'm just doing things like this to take myself away from unfolding back onto the past. So it's for me as much as I hope it helps anybody else and taking their mind away from anything that's not what they want to be thinking about. Okay. So, um, I'll go on to chapter 4. All right. Denny moved me far from the farm in Spangle to a Seattle neighborhood called Lesher, where he lived in a little apartment he rented on Lake Washington. I didn't enjoy apartment living much, as I was used to wide open spaces, and I was very much a puppy still. We had a balcony that overlooked the lake, which gave me pleasure since I am part water dog on my mother's side. I grew quickly, and during that first year, Denny and I forged a deep fondness for each other, as well as a feeling of trust, which is why I was surprised when he fell in love with Eve so quickly. He brought her home, and she was sweet smelling, like him, full of fermented drinks that made them both act funny. They were hanging on each other like they had too many clothes between them, and they were pulling at each other, tugging and biting lips and jabbing fingers and yanking at hair, all all elbows and toes and saliva. They fell onto the bed, and he mounted her. He plowed the field until it grasped the sheets in its fist, arched its back, and cried out with joy. When he got up to splash in the bathroom, she patted my head, which hovered low to the floor, me still being immature at just over a year old and a little bit intimidated by all the screaming. I know, Mr. Rourke. Hi, Lori. Thank you, Lori. You're very pretty. So she's patting the dog's head, and she said, you don't mind if I love him too, do you? I won't come between you. I respected her for asking. By the way, Lori, the story is told from the eyes of the dog. His name's Enzo. Hi, secular backup. I respected her for asking, but I knew that she would come between us, and I found her preemptive denial to be disingenuous. I tried not to act off-putting because I knew how infatuated Denny was with her, but I admit I was less than embracing of her presence, and because of that, she was less than embracing of me. We were both satellites orbiting Denny's sun, struggling for gravitational supremacy. Of course, she had the advantage of her tongue and her thumbs, and when I watched her kiss and fondle him sometimes, she would glance at me and wink, as if to gloat. Look at my thumbs. See what they can do? I don't know who Dickie Balls is, but whatever. Dickie Balls. That's funny. All right. I'm moving on to chapter 5 of The Art of Racing in the Rain, all told by the eyes of the dog. It's all short chapters, and he's just, gotten picked from the litter, and I read it. I thought my dog was like he was in pain, and I got mad. But that's how dogs. Oh, I know. Have you ever heard cats when they're fooling around? Oh my God, it's the most horrible thing. I don't know, Dickie, but we're not even talking about that now. We're reading through The Art of Racing in the Rain, and we're trying not to go back bad things. Trying to look forward and read a book called The Art of Racing in the Rain, and it's told from the eyes of the dog. He's a yellow lab. Good boy. He's a good boy. All right. Chapter 5. Monkeys have thumbs. Practically the dumbest species on the planet next to the duck-billed platypus, who make their dens underwater even though they breathe the air. The platypus is horribly stupid, but is only slightly dumber than a monkey. Yet monkeys have thumbs. Those monkey thumbs were meant for dogs. Give me my thumbs, you fucking monkeys. This dog is kind of funny. I love the Al Pacino remake of Scarface very much, though it doesn't compare to the Godfather movies, which are excellent. I know, right, Adair? Forget Kenny don't take home ever. He will let you once you get home. Okay, we got that. People don't look all that good either when they're breeding either. I know. Some don't. Um, Back to chapter 5. This is the dog talking. Okay. Well, I don't know if you're here to just start some trouble or whatever, Dickie, but we're trying to get away from that kind of shit. So I'm just gonna time you out because you're distracting me. No offense. If you want to act and listen to the story and not stir trouble, that's okay. But we're not here for trouble. Okay. The title is um, The Art of Racing in the Rain, and it's told by the dog. Okay, so remember, chapter 5, he's talking about movies. I watch too much TV. When Denny goes away in the morning, he turns it on for me, and it's become a habit. He warned me not to watch all day, but I do. Fortunately, he knows I love cars, so he lets me watch a lot of the Speed Channel. The classic races are the best. I especially like Formula One. I like NASCAR too, but I prefer it when they race on the road circuit. While racing is my favorite, Denny told me it was good for me to have a variety in my life, so he often puts on other channels, which I enjoy very much as well. Sometimes, if I'm watching the History Channel or the Discovery Channel or PBS, can you guys hear me well? I just don't want to be like muffled and you miss anything of what I'm saying. And if anybody doesn't know, the tattoo that I have, Ayrton Senna, kind of like was inspired by this book and Ayrton Senna himself. I'm not a racing fan, but I'm an Ayrton Senna fan. Or one of the kids' channel. When Zoe was little, I'd end up spending half the day trying to pry goofy jingles out of my brain. I learn about other cultures and other ways of life, and then I start thinking about my own place in the world and what makes sense and what doesn't. They talk a lot about Darwin. Pretty much every educational channel has some kind of a show about evolution at some point, and it's usually really well thought out and researched. However, I don't understand why people insist on pitting the concept of evolution and creation against each other. Why can't they see that spiritualism and science are one? That bodies evolve and souls evolve, and the universe is a fluid place that marries them both in a wonderful package called a human being. What's wrong with that idea? I love this book. I really do. I think it says some beautiful things. The scientific theorists go on about how monkeys are the closest evolutionary relative of people. But that's speculation. Based on what? Based on the fact that certain ancient craniums have been found to be similar to modern man? What does that prove? Can you guys hear me okay? Are you missing anything that I'm saying? All right, I don't want any arguing, please. Please, please, please. I'm so trying to get away from it. Please. Can we all just be nice? Based on the fact that, okay, you can't hear me? Yes, you can. My God, what's wrong with me? You always get me with that. Oh, God. What does that prove? We're talking about the ancient cranium. Based on the fact that some primates walk on 2 feet, being bipedal isn't even an advantage. Look at the human foot, full of bent toes and calcium deposits and push straining from ingrown claws that aren't even hard enough to scratch at the earth. And yet, how I yearn for the moment my soul inhabits one of these poorly designed bipedal bodies, and I, too, assume the health concerns of a man. So what if a man's body evolved from the monkeys? Whether he came from monkeys or fish is unimportant. The important idea is that when the body became human enough, the first human soul slipped into it. I'll give you a theory. Man's closest relative is not the chimpanzee, as the TV people believe, but is, in fact, the dog. Witness my logic. Case in point, number one, the dew claw. It is my opinion that the so-called dew claw, which is often snipped off a dog's foreleg at an early age, thank you, Becca, I appreciate that, is actually evidence of a pre-emergent thumb. Further, I believe that men have systematically bred the thumb out of certain lines of dogs through an elaborate process called selective breeding. simply in order simply in order to prevent dogs from evolving. No, I take him to a groomer for simply in order to prevent dogs from evolving into dexterous and therefore dangerous mammals. I also believe that man's continued domestication, if you care to use that silly euphemism, of dogs is motivated by fear. Fear that dogs, left to evolve on their own, would in fact develop thumbs and smaller tongues, and therefore would be superior to men, who are slow and cumbersome. Remember, the story is told from the dog, standing erect as they do. This is why dogs must live under the constant supervision of people and are immediately put to death when found living on their own. From what Denny said, I'm glad you're still here, Adara. That means you're listening to the story. Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you, anybody who's still listening to the story, because it's a really good story. From what Denny has told me about the government and its inner workings, it is my belief that this despicable plan was hatched in the back room of none other than the White House. Probably an evil advisor to a president of and questionable morals and intellectual fortitude, and probably with the correct assessment, unfortunately, made from a position of paranoia rather than of spiritual insight, that all dogs are progressively inclined regarding social issues. Hi, Angie. I know I'm not as exciting as everybody else. I'm just reading a book here, people. It's told from the eyes of the dog. It's called The Art of Racing in the Rain. And the dog is giving us its theory of why it thinks that man and dog are closely related. Case in point number two, the werewolf. The full moon rises, the fog clings to the lowest. Thank you, Angie. I appreciate it. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Because I'm really trying to get away from being angry. So exhausting. The full moon rises, the fog clings to the lowest branches of the spruce trees. The man steps out of the darkest corner of the forest and finds himself transformed into a monkey? I think not. Thank you, Angie. I appreciate it. And remember, the story is told from the eyes of a dog. And I know you know, Adair. I'm just telling people who are new to the room that the whole story is told from the eyes of the dog Enzo. And he's a good dog. He watches a lot of TV, and he's very perceptive. He's screaming. She's funny. You two are funny. Chapter 6. And the chapters are short, so don't think you've missed a lot. The chapters are only like 2 pages long. That's why I like the book, because you whip through it kind of. Well, not whip through it, but still they move fast. I'm glad to see you here, Angie. You're a very nice person. Chapter 6, told from the dog. Her name was Eve, and at first I resented how she changed our lives. I resented the attention Denny paid to her small hands, her plump round buttocks, her modest hip, the way he gazed, thank you, the way he gazed into her soft green eyes, which peered out from under stylish strands of straight blonde hair. Did I envy her engaging smile that eclipsed anything about her that might have been considered less than special? Perhaps I did. For she was a person unlike me. She was well groomed, unlike me. She was everything I wasn't. I went for extended periods without a haircut or a bath, for instance. She bathed every day and had a special person do nothing else but color her hair to Denny's liking. My nails grew too long and scratched the wood floor. She frequently attended to her nails with sticks and clippers and polishes to make sure they were the proper shape and size. Her attention to every detail of her appearance was reflected in her personality as well. She was an incredible organizer, fastidious in nature, constantly making lists and jotting down notes of things to be done or gotten or assembled, frequently creating what she called honey-do lists for Denny and me, so that our weekends were filled with trips to the Home Depot or waiting in line at the disposal and recycling transfer station in Georgetown. I didn't like painting rooms and fixing doorknobs and washing screens, but Denny liked it, apparently, because the more she gave him to do, the more quickly he completed his task so he could collect his reward, which usually included a lot of nuzzling and stroking. Soon after she moved into our apartment, they were married in a small wedding ceremony, which I attended, along with a group of their closest friends and Eve's immediate family. Denny didn't have any brothers or sisters to invite, and he explained his parents' absence simply by saying they didn't travel well. Eve's parents made it clear to all involved that the house in which the wedding took place, a charming little beach cottage on Whidbey Island, was owned by close friends of theirs who were not in attendance. I was allowed to participate, only under strict rules. I was not to roam freely on the beach or swim in the bay, as I might track sand onto the expensive mahogany floors. And I was forced to urinate and defecate in a very specific location next to the recycling container. Thank you, secular. This is first hour. First hour of what? What are you saying, Mr. Rourke? The second hour is full of drama? No, it's so funny. It's only been 35 minutes. No, no drama. I'm staying away from it. It's exhausting and it's making me feel sick all the time and giving me headaches and I just can't take it, you know? I'm not sleeping well and I'm not doing the right things I should be doing. So, anyway. Oh, school? Okay. Upon our return from Whidbey, I noticed that Eve moved to our apartment with a greater sense of authorship and was much bolder in her actions to move or replace towels, linens, and even furniture. She had entered our lives and changed everything around us. And yet, while I was unhappy with her intrusion, it will, it will, and I can't let it. That's just making me too angry, and it's exhausting. I know, and you're right about that. You are absolutely right about that, secular. Absolutely right, and that's what I'm trying to do here. I know it might not be the funnest of things, but just by reading and then maybe I'm learning out of it. Thank you, Adair. Oh, you're gonna make me cry. So I'll just get back to reading. Um, happy tears, not by the way. Okay. She changed everything around us. And there was something about her that prevented me from mustering any real anger. I believe that thing was her swollen belly. Baby on the way. Baby on the way. There was something about the effort it took for her to lie down on her side to rest, having removed her shirt and undergarment, the way her breast fell just out across her chest as she lay on the bed. It reminded me of my own mother at mealtime when she sighed and shrugged herself to the ground, lifting her leg to expose her nipples to us. These are the devices I use to feed you. Now eat. And while I greatly resented the attention Eve lavished on her unborn baby, in retrospect, I realize I have never given her a reason to lavish that same attention on me. Oh, this book chokes me up. Perhaps that is my regret. I loved how she was when she was pregnant, and yet I knew. I have to take a minute. Hold on. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Okay. And yet I knew I could never be the source of her affection in that way because I could never be her child. She devoted herself to the baby before it was even born. She touched it regularly through her tightly stretched skin. She sang to it. Hold on. Okay, I'll try to keep it together. This damn book. All right. She sang to it and danced with it. To music she played. Thank you, Secular. The music she played on the stereo. She learned to make it move around by drinking orange juice, which she did frequently, explaining to me that the health magazines demanded she drink the juice to the folic acid. But she and I both knew she was doing it for the kick. She once asked if I wanted to know what it felt like, and I did. Remember, this is a dog. So I held my face close against her belly after she had drunk the orange juice, and I felt it move. An elbow, I think, pushing out perversely like something reaching from the grave. It was hard for me to imagine exactly what was going on behind the curtain, inside Eve's magic sack where the little rabbit was being assembled. But I knew that what was inside of her was separate from her and had a will of its own and moved. Stop, Laura. Don't be mean. Be nice. You know I love you. And had a will of its own and moved when it wanted to, or when prodded by the orange juice, and was beyond her control. I admire the female sex, the life makers. It must be amazing to have a body that can carry an entire creature inside. I mean, other than a tapeworm, which I've had, that doesn't count as another life, really. That's a parasite and should never have been there in the first place. This dog's funny. The life that Eve had inside her was something she had made. She and Benny had made it together. I wished at the time that the baby would look like me. Uh, I gotta plug my phone in. Damn it. Battery's drained so fast. Now I don't know if you're gonna be able to hear me good. My dog's listening to the story too. That dog's right. I think you were there. The author is Garth Stein. All right, Roscoe. I need to move to where you are so I can. I know, buddy. You were listening to the story too. I know. All right, Secular. Good night. But I'll leave it up so you can listen to the rest of the story if you really want to. Okay. I probably won't be finished though tonight because it is a book. But I'll keep trying to get through as much as I can. Garth Stein is the author. The life. Okay. I remember the day the baby arrived. I had just reached adulthood, 2 years by calendar count. Denny was in Daytona, Florida. Thank you. Secular. Thanks, Secular. I appreciate it. I appreciate you making these accounts to keep coming back in here too. I'm sorry I'm mean to you. Or have been mean. I'll try to not be mean to you. Trying not to be mean to anybody. Benny was in Daytona, Florida for the drive of his career. He had spent the entire year soliciting sponsors, begging, pleading, hustling, until he got lucky and found the right person in the right hotel lobby to say, "You've got balls, son. Call me tomorrow." Thus, he found his long-sought sponsored dollars and was able to buy a seat in a Porsche 993 Cup car for the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Secular. Thank you. Can you just give me a minute I just gotta blow my nose because it's getting teared up. Just one sec, okay? Be right Thank you guys. I'm back. Thank you, Secular, for the thumbs up. Mhm. Um, so Denny got a sponsor for a race. Endurance racing is not for the meek. Four drivers, each spending 6 hours behind the wheel of a loud, powerful, challenging, and you taking your trash. I don't know what you mean. No, I was blowing my nose. Uh, too many bushes there where I gotta put the trash. But they need to, I only go in the daytime. Um, okay. The 24 Hours of Daytona, which is broadcast on television, is as unpredictable as it is exciting. That Denny was presented with a chance to drive it in it the same year that his daughter would be born was one of those coincidences that turn. Okay. Did he change it? Maybe he did. Very perceptive, Ablavi. I'll finish this chapter and then I'll stop and we'll save it unless people want to hear. Um, coincidence of time. Eve was dismayed by the unfortunate timing of the event. Denny celebrated. I didn't to roar. Denny celebrated the bounty of opportunity and the feeling that he had everything he could possibly ask for. Still, the timing was off. On the day of the race, even though it was more than a week before schedule, Eve felt the contractions and called the midwife, who invaded our home and quickly took charge. Later that evening, as Denny was, no doubt, driving the circuit in Daytona and winning the race, Eve stood bent over the bed with, I could never give birth at home with fucking a midwife. That's what she's doing, giving birth at home. Could you imagine that? Oh my God, I could not imagine that. Eve stood bent over the bed with two round ladies who helped her by holding her arms, and with a monstrous bellow that seemed to last an hour, squirted out a little bloody blob of human tissue. We missed you, Adair. Of human tissue that wiggled spastically and then cried out. The ladies helped Eve into her bed and rested the tiny purple thing on her torso until the baby's searching mouth found Eve's nipple and began to suck. Could I have a minute alone? Eve started. Of course, one of the ladies said, moving to the door. Come with us, puppy, the other lady said to me on her way out. No, Eve stopped them. He can stay. That is so sweet. I could stay. Despite myself, I felt proud to be included in Eve's inner circle. The two ladies bustled off to take care of whatever they needed to take care of, and I watched in fascination as Eve suckled her new babe. After a few minutes, my attention drifted from the baby's first meal. Oh my God, I'm going to get teared up again. Oh, what the fuck? Fuck, why? Um, Drifted to Eve's face, and I saw that she was crying, and I wondered why. She let her free hand dangle to the bedside, her fingers near my muzzle. I hesitated. I didn't want to presume she was beckoning me, but then her fingers wiggled and her eyes caught mine, and I knew she was calling me. I bumped her hand with my nose. She lifted her fingers to the crown of my head and scratched, still crying, her baby still nursing. I know I told him to go, she said to me. I know that I insisted he go. I know. Tears ran down her cheeks. But I so wish he were here. I had no idea what to do, but I knew not to move. She needed me there. Oh my God, this book. Will you promise to always protect her? She asked. She wasn't asking me. She was asking Denny, and I was merely Denny's surrogate. Still, I felt the obligation. I understood that as a dog, I could never be as interactive with humanity as I truly desired. Yet, I realized at that moment I could be something else. I could provide something of need to the people around me. I could comfort Eve when Denny was away. I could protect Eve's baby. And while I would always crave more, in a sense, I had found a place to begin. The next day, Denny came home from Daytona, Florida, unhappy. His mood immediately changed when he held his little girl, whom they named Zoe, not after me, but after Eve's grandmother. Do you see my little angel, Anne? He asked me. Did I see her? I practically birthed her. Funny. I always seem to forget that the book is written by an actual person and not the dog. It was funny. Uh, Denny skated carefully through the kitchen after he returned. I know it. I couldn't stand it anymore. I just couldn't. But Blobby was nice. She was on the panel and she was, you know, distracting away from it. That was good. Eve's parents, Maxwell and Trish, had been in the house since Zoe was born, taking care of their daughter and their new baby granddaughter. I began calling them the twins because they looked very much alike, with the same shade of artificially colored hair, and because they always wore matching outfits, khaki pants or polyester slacks partnered with sweaters or polo shirts. When one of them wore sunglasses, the others did too. Or the other did too. The same with Bermuda shorts and tall socks pulled up to their knees. And because they both smelled of chemicals, plastics, and petroleum-based hair products. From the moment they arrived, the twins. So remember through the story, like if he calls them the twins, it's her parents, not the boo. The twins had been admonishing Eve for having her baby at home. They told her she was endangering her baby's welfare, and that in these modern times it was irresponsible to give birth anywhere but in the most prestigious of all hospitals, with the most expensive of all doctors. Eve tried to explain to them that statistics showed exactly the opposite was true for a healthy mother, and that any signs of distress would have been recognized early by her experienced team of licensed midwives. But they refused to yield. Fortunately for Eve, Denny's arrival home meant the twins could turn their attention away from her shortcomings and focus on his. That's a lot of bad luck, Maxwell said to Denny as they stood in the kitchen. Maxwell was gloating. I could hear it in his voice. Do you get any of your money back? Trish asked. Denny was distraught, and I wasn't sure why until Mike came over later that night and he and Denny opened their beers together. It turned out that Denny was going to take the third stint in the car. The car had been running well, everything going great. They were second in class, and Denny would easily assume the lead as the sunlight faded and the night driving began, until the driver, who had the second stint, stuffed the car into the wall on turn six. He stuffed it when a Daytona prototype, a much faster car, was overtaken. First rule of racing: never move aside to let someone pass. Make him pass you. But the driver on Denny's team moved over, and he hit the marbles, which is what they call the bits of rubber that shed off the tires that accumulate on the track next to the established racing line. The dog uses a lot of racing references about life, so just in case anybody's wondering, the book isn't about racing. It's just he uses a lot of racing references. He hit the marbles, and the rear end snapped around. He plowed into the wall pretty close to top speed, and the car shattered into a million little pieces. The driver was unhurt, but the race was over for the team, and Denny, who had spent a year working for his moment to shine, found himself standing in the infield, wearing the fancy race suit they had given him for the race, with the sponsor patches all over it, and his own special helmet that he had fitted with all sorts of radio gear and vent adapters, and the special carbon fiber hands device for protection, watching the opportunity of his lifetime get dragged off the track by the wrecker, strapped onto a flatbed, and driven off to salvage without his having sat in it for a single racing lap. You're so funny. I know what your picture's going to be too. You're so funny. I'm sorry that I thought the moon was a UFO, okay? I'm sorry. He's never going to let me live that down. And you don't get any of your money back, Mike said. I don't care about any of that, Denny said. I should have been here. She came early. You can't know what's going to happen before it happens. Yes, I can, Denny said. If I'm any good, I can. Anyway, Mike said, lifting his beer bottle to Zoe. To Zoe. To Zoe. To Zoe, I said to myself, whom I will always protect. This is a nice book. It's really a good book. And my daughter, she had read it over and over and over again. And I just was so moved by it that I had never, seen a book that had, been told from the eyes of the dog. And so I just really, when I read it, and the writer, Garth Stein, I appreciate the written word. So he writes so beautiful that sometimes, like I said, I get so choked up by some of the things this dog is thinking. And you'll never think of your dog the same again. When this book is done, you'll think, my God, my dog's hearing everything, and just an amazing, incredible story. And I mean, if nobody's bored of it, oh yeah, I hate that there's gaps in the screen where I put my air conditioner. Get in here. Oh God, I really do. I think, oh, oh, dude, it's like a beetle. Gross. James, what's James? What does James mean? Adair. Jammies or James or Jameson? James, Jamie, Jammies. What does it mean? You'll understand the title, The Art of Racing in the Rain. The driver, Ayrton Senna was a master at the art of racing in the rain. That's what it's called. And Ayrton Senna was a master at the art of racing in the rain. And um, if you ever look up if you look up YouTube and you look up Ayrton Senna, he's dead. But man, I no lie, this guy was alive for 11.20 seconds in that what I saw of him, and he's impacted my life in more ways than one, and just in such odd ways. Like the day, I know I've told this story before, but if you don't mind, I'll say it again if somebody hasn't heard it. In 1994, Ayrton Senna. It was 6:30 in the morning here, and I was looking for something on TV. I was with my daughter's father at the time, and she wasn't born yet. There is a movie, but it's not like the book. No movie is ever like the book. I don't even think they use the references to Ayrton Senna in the movie. I'm not sure. I refuse to look. I refuse to watch it because I've read the book, so it won't be the same. Even though I know Kevin Costner did a good job um, as talking for Enzo, but the book has just a very special place in my heart. Um, it was 6:30 in the morning in 1994, and there was nothing to watch on TV. And I don't know why I was up even looking for something to watch, but you know me, I'm insomniac. And my daughter's father said, Ugh, that is nasty. That is like a beetle or something. Holy shit! I never saw anything like that. You guys gotta give me a minute. I gotta try and get that thing. Hold on. I'm back. I got it. Nothing gets away from the trooper. uh, oh shit! Why did I lose my car? Okay. Sorry, I was gonna say James Mitchell. How am I writing it? I was gonna say writes in third person a lot. He'll be a bird and think, oh really? I'll have to look that up. That's interesting. Has he written a book like about being a bird? That's very interesting. What's it called? I love to read. I really do. That's interesting. A book told from the eyes of a bird. I did read a book called Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and that was told from the eyes of who wrote that? Richard Bachman? Oh no, Richard Bach. Richard Bach, because Richard Bachman is Stephen King's pen name. So I did read that, but yeah, 6:30 in the morning, and my ex would just leave this on, and that was the race that Ayrton Senna passed away. And no, but did he write a book like that? Like, did you read a book of like was about a bird? If anybody has never read Jonathan Livingston Seagull, you should read it. That's a really good book as well. Very what's it called when they use something else? It's oh my god, it's represents something. It's I can't really quite think of the word, but the seagull is like to represent human beings. It was no, the race was in Italy, so it was a different time zone. It was at the it was in Italy. It was the Grand Prix, and it was on a caution, and because there was debris on the track, there had been an accident, and he they went, go green flag after they cleaned up the debris, and it was the first time they had used the pace car going around, which they shouldn't have because it slowed down it made the tires cool down, but they need the tires to be hot for the for the grip, the friction, and 11.20 seconds into it, this guy crashes, and the camera stayed on him, and I swear it was like he fucking crashed right into me. The breath got knocked out of me, and the atmosphere of the world got thinner, and I knew had somebody very significant had left this world. There's more to the story, but it just was such a life changing thing for me. I don't know why. But then years later, 18 years later, here's my daughter. She's 16 at the time. And I said something to her, and she said, Mom, I've heard those exact words before. And I had never heard them before, but the way I had used to describe how I felt at that moment, the first person to him, Sid Watkins, out to him on the racetrack that day when he was on Howard Stern and he was describing that moment, he used the same word I used to describe it verbatim. Verbatim. He said, I am not a religious person. In fact, I'm agnostic. But I swear to you, at that moment, I witnessed this man's soul leave this earth. And that is how I felt. And even up to the guy saying, in fact, I'm agnostic. The guy used my words verbatim. And my daughter, who is, a very successful, good person and, you know, very will to succeed and to, Ayrton Senna said, I didn't become a race car driver to come in first, second, third, or fourth. I mean, I'm sorry, second, third, fourth, or fifth. I came to win. And that's how my daughter is. She's not competitive in a mean way, but, she is successful at what she does. I know. That's what I believe that, Adair. Thank you. You made me cheer up. Thank you. But here's my daughter highlighting quotes from Ayrton Senna. And she said to me that he's part of the reason who she is today. And she didn't know anything about that story. He wasn't even alive when she was alive. And he impacted her life too. And neither one of us watch racing, you know? But he has impacted my life. I don't know. It's very strange. Sometimes I feel like she's like he's reincarnated in her or something because the way she was highlighting quotes from this person and his will to succeed and his inspirations and stuff was just really incredible to me. So for her 16th birthday, her and I went and we got tattoos. And my tattoo, I got two, actually. I got a mommy hummingbird and uh, he did. I don't know who the president was when the dog was talking, but I doubt it because Jimmy Carter was the president in '78 and um, Ayrton Senna died in um, '94. It's funny in the book. Um, the dog talks about the day that Ayrton Senna died. Just so incredible. Does anybody want to hear any of chapter 7 or do not? It's up to you guys. If you want, I'll go on to chapter 7. If not, I'll try to think of something else. I have these books I checked out, and I better bring them back because I've had them for a while. That's why I was trying to kind of get through it because I'm pretty sure there was probably no renewal, and I think I've had it for well over the time. Although they don't put that in anymore when you've taken it out. But let me know if you guys want me to go on to chapter 7, and I will. But yeah, and so she got a mommy penguin and a baby penguin, and I got Ayrton. I got a center tattoo. No, remember? Oh, when I used to talk. I did do Jimmy Carter for my mother. I would hold a peanut, in the shell, and because he was a peanut farmer, and I would do "How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee for the crunchy shell surrounding the goodness inside." I would just go on. Okay. Oh, thank you, Adair. Awesome. Awesome, Kai. Awesome, Adair. I appreciate it so much. All right, chapter 7. When it was just Denny and me, he used to make up to $10,000 a month in his spare time by calling people on the telephone, like the commercial said. But after $10,000 a month by calling people on the telephone, I better get a job like that. Hi, Moonchild. I'm sorry. The chapters are short and it's easy to catch up to. I was doing chapter 7 of The Art of Racing in the Rain. It's not about really racing. It's all told by the eyes of the dog, through the eyes of the dog. And I hope it's not boring to you or anything, but um, just remember it's told from the eyes of the dog. And Denny is his owner, and Eve is his wife, and they just had a baby called Zoe. the people did. When it was just Denny and me, he used to make up to $10,000 a month in his spare time by calling people on the telephone, like the commercial said. But after Eve became pregnant, Denny took his job behind the counter at the fancy auto shop that serviced only expensive German cars. Denny liked his real job, but it ate up all of his free time, and he and I didn't get to spend our days together anymore. Sometimes on the weekend, Denny taught at a high performance drivers education program run by one of the many car clubs in the area, BMW, Porsche, Alfa Romeo, and he often took me to the track with him, which I enjoyed very much. He didn't really like teaching at these events because he didn't get to drive. He just had to sit in the passenger seat and tell other people how to drive, and it hardly paid for the gas it cost him to get down the track. He fantasized about moving somewhere, to Sonoma or Phoenix or Connecticut or Las Vegas or even Europe, and catching on with one of the big schools so he could drive more. But Eve said she didn't think she could ever leave Seattle. Eve worked for some big retail clothing company because it provided us with money and health insurance, and also because she could buy clothes for the family at an employee discount. She went back to work a few months after Zoe was born, even though she really wanted to stay home with her baby. Denny offered to give up his own job to care for Zoe, but Eve said that wasn't practical. Instead, she dropped Zoe off. Uh, she dropped Zoe off at the daycare center every morning and picked her up every night on her way home from work. With Denny and Eve working and Zoe off at daycare, I was left to my own devices. For most of the dreary days, I was alone in the apartment, wandering from room to room, from nap spot to nap spot, sometimes spending my hours doing nothing more than staring out the window and timing the metro buses that drove by on the street outside to see if I could decipher their schedule. I hadn't realized how much I enjoyed having everyone bustling around the house for those first few months of Zoe's life. I had felt so much a part of something. I was an integral figure in Zoe's entertainment. Sometimes after a feeding, when she was awake and alert and strapped safely into her bouncy seat, Eve and Denny would play monkey in the middle, throwing a ball of socks back and forth across the living room. I got to be the monkey. I leapt after the socks and then scrambled back to catch them, and then danced like a four-legged clown to catch them again. And when, against all odds, I reached the sock ball and batted it into the air with my snout, Zoe would squeal and laugh. She would shake her legs with such force the bouncy chair would scoot along the floor, and even Denny and I would collapse in a pile of laughter. But then everyone moved on and left me behind. I wallowed in the emptiness of my lonely days. I would stare out the window and try to picture Zoe and me playing Enzo Fetch game, a game I had invented but she later named, in which Denny or Eve would help her roll a sock ball or fling one of her toys across the room, and I would push it back to her with my nose, and she would laugh and I would wag my tail, and then we would do it again. Until one day, when an unfortunate accident happened that changed my life. Denny turned on the TV in the morning to check the weather report, and he forgot to turn the TV off. Let me tell you this: the Weather Channel is not about weather, it is about the world. It is about how weather affects us all, our entire global economy, health, happiness, spirit. The channel delves with great detail into weather phenomena of all different kinds: hurricanes, cyclones, tornadoes, monsoons, hail, rain, lightning storms, and they especially delight in the confluence of multiple phenomena. Absolutely fascinating. So much so that when Denny returned from work that evening, I was still glued to the television. "What are you watching?" he asked when he came in. Asked it as if I were Eve or Zoe. as if it couldn't have been more natural to see me there or address me like that. But Eve was in the kitchen cooking dinner, and Zoe was with her. It was just me. I looked at him and then back to the TV, which was reviewing the day's major event, flooding due to heavy rainstorms on the East Coast. The Weather Channel, he scoffed, snatched up the remote, and changed the channel. Here, he changed it to the Speed Channel. I had plenty of TV when I grew up, but only when a person was already watching. Denny and I enjoyed racing and the movie channels. Eve and I watched music videos and Hollywood gossip. Zoe and I watched children's shows. I tried to teach myself to read by studying Sesame Street, but it didn't work. Night, Ablavi. If you're interested in hearing the rest, you can tune in. I'm so corny reading on my live stream, but whatever. It is what it is, right? Hmm. I achieved a degree of literacy, and I can still tell the difference between pull and push on a door. But after I figured out the shapes of the letters, I couldn't grasp which sounds each letter made and why. But suddenly, the idea of watching television by myself entered my life. If I had been a cartoon, the light bulb over my head would have illuminated. I barked excitedly when I saw cars racing on the screen. Denny laughed. Better, right? Yes, better. I stretched deeply, joyously, doing my best downward facing dog and wagging my tail. Both gestures of happiness and approval, and Denny got it. I didn't know you were a television dog, he said. I can leave it on for you during the day if you want. I want. But you have to limit yourself, he said. I don't want you to catch you watching TV all day long. I'm counting on you to be responsible. I am responsible. While I had learned a great deal up until that point in my life, I was 3 years old already. Once Denny began leaving the TV on for me, my education really took off. With the tedium gone, time started moving quickly again. The weekends, when we were all together, seemed short and filled with activity, and while Sunday nights were bittersweet, I took great comfort in knowing I had a week of television ahead. I was so immersed in my education, I suppose I lost count of the week. So I was surprised by the arrival of Zoe's second birthday. Suddenly, I was engulfed by a party in the apartment with a bunch of little kids she had met in the park at her daycare center. It was loud and crazy, and all the children let me play with them and wrestle on the rug. And I let them dress me up with a hat and a sweat jacket, and Zoe called me her big brother. They got lemon cake all over the floor, and I got to be Eve's helper, cleaning it up while Denny opened presents with the kids. I thought it nice that Eve seemed so happy cleaning up this mess when she sometimes complained about cleaning the apartment when one of us made a mess. She even teased me about my crumb cleaning skills, and we raced. She with her dustbuster and me with my tongue. After everyone left, we had all completed our cleaning assignment. Denny had a surprise birthday present for Zoe. He showed her a photograph that she looked at briefly and with little interest. But then he showed the same photograph to Eve, and it made Eve cry. And then it made her laugh, and she hugged him and looked at the photo again and cried some more. Denny picked up the photograph and showed it to me, and it was a photo of a house. Look at this, Enzo, he said. This is your new yard. Aren't you excited? I guess I was excited. Actually, I was kind of confused. I didn't understand the implications. And then everyone started shoving things in boxes and scrambling around, and the next thing I knew, my bed was somewhere else entirely. The house was nice. It was a stylish little craftsman like I'd seen on this old house, with 2 bedrooms and only one bathroom, but with plenty of living space, situated very close to its neighbors on a hillside in the central district. Many electrical wires draped from poles along the sidewalk outside. And while our house looked neat and trim, a few doors down stood other houses with unkempt lawns and peeling paint and mossy roofs. Eve and Denny were in love with the place. They spent almost the entire first night there rolling around naked in every room except Zoe's. When Denny came home from work, he would first say hello to the girls, and then he would take me outside to the yard and throw the ball, which I happily retrieved. And then Zoe got big enough that she would run around and squeal while I pretended to chase her, and Eve would admonish her, "Don't run like that. Enzo will bite you." She did that frequently in the early years, doubt me like that. But one time, Denny turned on her quickly and said Enzo would never hurt her, ever. And he was right. I knew I was different from other dogs. I had a certain willpower that was strong enough to overcome my more primal instincts. What Eve said was not out of line, as most dogs cannot help themselves, but they see an animal running and they track it and they go after it. But that sort of thing doesn't apply to me. Still, Eve didn't know that, and I had no way of explaining it to her. So I never played rough with Zoe. I didn't want Eve to start worrying unnecessarily because I had already smelled it. Oh, this is so sad. This is so sad. When Denny was away and Eve fed me, and she leaned down to give me my bowl of food, and my nose was near her head, I had detected a bad odor, like rotted wood, mushrooms, and decay. Wet, soggy decay. It came from her ears and her sinuses. There was something inside Eve's head that didn't belong. If given a tongue that could talk, I could have warned them. I could have alerted them to her condition long before they discovered it with their machines, their computers, and supervision scope that can see inside the human head. They may think those machines are sophisticated, but in fact, they are clunky. Clunky and clumsy and totally reactive. Based on a philosophy of symptom-driven medicine that is always a step late, my nose, yes, my little black nose, that is leathery and cute, could smell the disease in Eve's brain long before even she knew it was there. But I didn't have a tongue that could speak, so all I could do was watch and feel empty inside. So it looks so sad. Eve had assigned me to protect Zoe, no matter what, but no one had been assigned to protect Eve, and there was nothing I could do to help her. I'm not sad in real life. I'm just sad because of the book. But that's the end of that chapter, and we'll do more. But I'm gonna go. I love you guys for listening. Thank you. But thank you so much, everyone. I'm not sad. I'm not sad. It's just this book is so moving. Okay? So, night, everyone. Peace, love, and tacos. Thank you for listening.